So picture this. You are driving down like a pitch black stretch of State Road 64 in Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah. The really dark rural stretches.
Exactly. You've got the radio on low, cornfields are just blurring past on either side, and you're surrounded by that kind of heavy, quiet darkness you only find out in the country.
Right. It's a very specific kind of isolation.
It really is. And suddenly, out of nowhere, a vehicle blows past your window doing 127 miles per hour.
Oh,
It rattles your entire car, and it just vanishes into the night before your brain can even, register what just happened.
gosh, that is terrifying.
Right. Well, grab a cup of coffee and pull up a chair, because today we are spilling the local tea. We are pulling back the curtain on exactly who was in that car and what else is happening in the shadows of a small town.
We're doing a deep dive into the dispatch logs from the Antigo Police Department and the Langlade County Sheriff's Office. Specifically, we're looking at the week of August 7th through the 15th, 2026.
Yeah. And okay, let's unpack this, because our mission today is to take this stack of, dry bureaucratic dispatch records and extract the absolute spiciest, most fascinating neighborhood dynamics hidden inside.
It's essentially the raw, unfiltered data of human behavior. When you read between the lines of a police blotter, especially in a rural community, you aren't just looking at crime statistics.
Yeah.
You are looking at a sociological snapshot of how people interact with their environment, with nature, and with each other.
Yeah, no, for sure. We've got high-speed pursuits, bald eagles, hijacking squad cars, and some of the most bizarre neighborhood drama you can imagine.
It was a really wild week.
It really is. And just as a quick ground rule before we begin to protect the innocent and the incredibly guilty, we won't be using any personal names or exact home addresses today, just the dirty tea everyone loves. We are here to analyze the themes, the psychology, and the wild local stories.
Sounds like a plan.
So let's start with that terrifying visual I just gave you on State Road 64.
Right. The 1080 active pursuit. This is a situation where a deputy attempted a routine traffic stop near Sherry Road, and the female driver decided to flee. She eventually hit speeds of 127 miles per hour on a rural highway before the police, they had to terminate the chase for public safety.
I cannot get past the sheer physics of that decision. I mean, hitting 127 miles per hour on an interstate is dangerous enough, but doing it on a 2-lane county highway?
A highway shared with tractors, blind driveways, and deer.
Yes. It's like watching a Fast and Furious movie, but shot in a cornfield. The margin for error is essentially zero.
What's fascinating here is this psychological phenomenon known as velocitization, combined with the visual monotony of rural roads.
Velocitization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you are on a long, flat stretch of highway at night, your brain is starved of the peripheral reference points it normally uses to gauge speed. Things like, buildings, pedestrians, or complex intersections.
Oh, I see. So it's almost like the altimeter on an airplane. Like, if a pilot is flying in heavy fog and can't see the horizon, they might not realize they are pitched downward until it's too late. The driver's brain literally loses its grip on how fast the car is actually moving through space.
You betcha. You feel completely disconnected from the kinetic energy you are generating. And at 127 miles per hour, you are traveling almost 190 feet every single second.
Jeez, that's incredibly fast.
It is. By the time your headlights illuminate a deer or a stalled vehicle in your lane, you have already hit it. Terminating that pursuit wasn't just protocol. It was a mathematical necessity.
Because they couldn't stop in time.
Exactly. The stopping distance at that speed is roughly 3.5 football fields. If the deputy had kept pushing her, a catastrophic collision was virtually guaranteed.
Wow. Well, they did end up apprehending her later, safely, which is good. But this idea of risk blindness on rural roads, it perfectly sets up another incident from the exact same highway system just a few days earlier.
Oh, the traffic stop on US 45.
Yeah, over at US Highway 45 and County Road N. Officers pulled over a pickup truck packed with passengers. But the real issue wasn't inside the cab. Sitting completely unrestrained in the open bed of the truck, just rolling down the highway, was a 7-year-old child.
Which represents a completely different but equally dangerous type of psychological disconnect.
How so?
Well, the driver in the high-speed chase was consumed by the adrenaline of flight. But the driver of this pickup truck was likely suffering from normalcy bias.
Wait, break that down for me. Normalcy bias, is that just like assuming bad things only happen to other people?
Essentially, yes. It's the brain's tendency to underestimate the likelihood of a disaster because it hasn't happened to you yet.
Oh, right.
In rural areas, riding in the back of a pickup is often viewed nostalgically. It's a cultural hallmark of country living. The driver is likely in a very familiar environment, their local roads, their daily route.
Or because they feel comfortable, their perception of risk just drops to zero.
Exactly. They ignore the brutal laws of physics, which dictate that in a 40-mile-per-hour crash, an unrestrained 50-pound child becomes a projectile carrying thousands of pounds of force.
That is absolutely terrifying to think about. Thankfully, the officers intervened and made sure the child was moved safely inside the cab before, a tragedy could happen.
A very crucial intervention.
But the vehicular chaos doesn't stop there. Over near East 10th Avenue Road and Parkway Road, we had a driver in a red sports car doing donuts, losing control, spinning out, crashing into a residential yard, and then just fleeing onto Highway AA.
It really makes you realize how quickly a vehicle transitions from a utility to a 3,000-pound weapon.
Yeah, no kidding.
And it perfectly illustrates the tension in these dispatch logs. You have human beings wielding massive amounts of mechanical power, often with a severe lack of judgment, on roads that cut directly through raw, untamed wilderness.
Which actually brings us to a major pivot, because while asphalt and steel are dangerous, the hazards in Langlade County aren't just mechanical. Sometimes the threat is entirely biological.
Wildlife incidents.
Yes. Let's talk about the intersection where human infrastructure violently collides with nature.
It's a huge part of rural policing. Officers are frequently forced to step far outside their standard law enforcement training and act as ad hoc game wardens.
And nowhere is that more obvious than what happened on State Route 64 near Clover Road. A bald eagle-like, an apex predator with a massive wingspan was just sitting directly in the lane of travel.
Just chilling right in the road.
Right. It was injured, but it wasn't moving. The dispatch logs show that responding deputies actually managed to scoop this massive bird into the back of a squad car to keep it safe until the REGI wildlife rehabilitators arrived.
Which is an incredible feat.
But logistically, how do you even convince a bald eagle to get into the back of a squad car? Usually you need handcuffs for that.
Well, it's incredibly dangerous for a deputy.
Yeah.
A bald eagle's talons have a crushing grip strength of about 400 pounds per square inch.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That is more than enough to pierce human bone. The mechanics of capturing a bird of prey usually involve aggressive sensory deprivation.
Like putting a hood on a falcon?
Exactly. You have to quickly throw a heavy blanket or jacket over the bird to plunge it into darkness. That triggers a natural calming reflex. And then you have to physically pin the wings to its body so it doesn't thrash and, injure its hollow bones.
I am just picturing a patrol officer whose primary job is like traffic stops and noise complaints, wrestling the symbol of American freedom into the backseat next to a plastic divider. It's absurd.
It really is.
But nature just operates on its own terms out there. Take my personal favorite log of the week. A driver calls in a car-deer collision on US 45. They hit the deer, it goes down, the driver's calling the police, waiting for a response, and suddenly the deer just casually stands up, brushes itself off, and walks away into the woods like nothing happened.
The invincible deer phenomenon.
Yes.
Yep.
What is happening there?
This actually highlights a fascinating aspect of prey animal biology. When an animal like a deer experiences sudden, massive trauma, their endocrine system floods their body with adrenaline and cortisol.
Okay.
It's an evolutionary survival mechanism designed to mask pain completely so they can escape a predator.
So the deer wasn't actually fine. It was just running on like nature's emergency backup generator.
Exactly. The heart rate skyrockets, blood is diverted to the major muscle groups, and the animal flees.
Wow.
The danger from a public safety perspective is that the adrenaline eventually wears off. The animal often collapses a few hundred yards away, and sometimes they wander back onto the roadway as their internal injuries catch up to them.
Which creates a huge secondary hazard for the next driver who comes along.
You betcha.
Nature doesn't respect the municipal grid at all. It's completely indifferent to our infrastructure. We saw that perfectly over on County Road Z, where a single bird landed on a power line, got electrocuted, and caused an entire power pole to violently arc.
Oh, the fried bird incident.
Yeah. The dispatcher notes literally say, quote, "Bird is on the line fried, pole arching." It only takes one small biological misstep to threaten the power supply of an entire neighborhood.
It really shows the fragility of our modern systems.
It does. Or, in the case of Cornerstone Chiropractic on Fairland Street, it takes one trapped skunk to threaten the nasal passages of an entire medical clinic.
A live skunk in a trap near a business entrance is a highly volatile chemical situation. One wrong move by the animal control officer, and that building becomes uninhabitable for days.
Oh, yeah, no thank you. Okay, so we've looked at the mechanical hazards of speeding cars and the biological hazards of local wildlife. But the most unpredictable element in Langlade County isn't a deer or a sports car.
It's human perception.
Exactly. I want to transition into how the dispatchers and officers have to navigate situations where the perceived threat is completely divorced from reality.
This is perhaps the most challenging aspect of emergency response. 911 dispatchers and patrol officers are constantly making life or death calculations based on deeply flawed human testimony.
Case in point, the Wistful Vista Road drama. A homeowner calls 911 in an absolute panic. He claims an intruder just walked right into his house without knocking.
Right.
And the homeowner says he literally pulled a rifle on the guy. This is a massive, high-stakes emergency. Deputies rush to the scene expecting a potential shootout. And what do they find?
No intruder.
No intruder, just the homeowner laying out in his own yard, heavily intoxicated. It's like a game of rural telephone where a guy is basically fighting his own shadow.
Well, this raises an important question about how alcohol alters the brain's threat processing centers.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Alcohol suppresses the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for logic and reality testing. But simultaneously, it hyperactivates the amygdala, the brain's fear center.
Oh, wow. So he really believed it.
He wasn't just making up a story. In his chemically altered state, he likely perceived a genuine, life-threatening home invasion. He was essentially fighting ghosts, created by his own neurochemistry.
That makes the officer's job incredibly difficult. I mean, they have to de-escalate a guy with a rifle who is absolutely convinced his life is in danger, even though he's the only one there.
And the dispatchers have it just as tough, trying to decode these threats entirely through audio.
Like the Bass Lake incident on North Shore Road and Short Road?
The open line call.
Yes. Dispatch gets a 911 call with no one speaking directly into the phone. They hear a toddler babbling in the background, and then a man's voice cuts through and ominously says, "This will be the best way to catch a fish."
I mean, if you are the dispatcher sitting in that communication center, your mind immediately goes to the darkest possible scenario.
Right, like, is catching a fish a coded threat? Is this a kidnapping in progress?
It's like having to play a game of blindfolded chess where the only pieces you have are muffled background noises.
Exactly. The dispatcher tracks the callback number, sends officers out, and it turns out to be a completely innocent pocket dial. Just a grandfather giving his grandson a wholesome fishing lesson on Bass Lake.
It highlights the acoustic detective work required in modern policing. Without visual input, the human brain is wired to fill in the gaps.
And you have to assume the worst.
Right. In emergency services, you are trained to assume the worst to ensure an adequate response. You have to evaluate ambient noise, vocal inflection, and fragmented sentences to construct a hypothesis of the scene before officers even arrive.
So the officers are constantly toggling between extreme threat and total innocence. But sometimes the innocence is exactly what gets people in trouble.
Yeah.
Let's look at the traffic stop at County Road K and County Road U. A deputy suspects a driver of operating while intoxicated. They administer a breathalyzer, and the guy blows a medium .00. He is stone cold sober.
A seemingly flawless result for the driver.
You would think.
Mm.
But the deputy still issues him a citation. Why? Because the driver was sitting in the car with the freshly opened, ice-cold Busch Light apple wedged directly between his legs.
The legal concept of the open container law.
But help me understand this. I mean, if his blood alcohol content is demonstrably 0 and his driving isn't impaired, why is simply having the can open a punishable offense? Isn't the law supposed to punish the act of drunk driving?
This is the difference between reactive and proactive law enforcement philosophy.
Okay.
The open container law isn't just about punishing current impairment. It's designed to eliminate the opportunity for impairment while the vehicle is in operation.
Ah, I see.
The legislative intent is based on the idea that human willpower is fallible. If an open intoxicant is in the passenger area, the barrier to consumption is 0. By penalizing the presence of the open container, the law attempts to proactively sever the link between drinking and driving before the first sip is even taken.
So it's basically a structural guardrail. He handed the officer the ticket not because he was drunk, but because he built the perfect environment to get drunk while driving. I love that distinction. But, when you strip away the high-speed chases, the wild animals, and the police philosophy, here's where it gets really interesting. What you're left with in these dispatch logs is the true beating heart of a small town.
The petty neighborhood micro-conflicts.
Exactly. The absolutely petty drama that truly fuels a small town. And some of these are so oddly specific. There was a vehicle break-in on County Road F where the thief broke into a center console, but instead of taking electronics or valuables, they took exactly two things: $30 in cash and a fillet knife.
A crime of utilitarian opportunity.
Right.
It speaks to a very specific local demographic. Someone whose immediate needs are, a half tank of gas and the ability to clean a fish.
It's strangely practical. And speaking of bizarre neighborhood drama, there was an active custody battle over a cat on Enterprise Lake Road.
Oh, the feline dispute.
Yeah. The original owner had been incarcerated, someone else took the cat in, and when the original owner got out, the new caretaker refused to give the cat back.
Which puts the police in a terrible position. Under civil law, pets are traditionally classified as personal property,
Right.
no different than a lawnmower or a television.
Right.
But emotionally, humans treat them as family members. When law enforcement responds to a pet custody dispute, they are forced to navigate the massive gulf between rigid property law and intense human attachment. Often there is nothing criminal they can enforce, and it has to be kicked over to civil court.
So the officers essentially have to be impromptu marriage counselors, but for pet adoption.
Pretty much.
But amidst all these petty squabbles and legal gray areas, we also see examples of incredible community cohesion, like the resident over on State Road 47 who had an abandoned RV on his property.
The highly polite resident.
Very polite. Most people might just drag it to a ditch or try to quietly dismantle it. But this guy calls the police, non-emergency line, simply to ask for advice on how to properly scrap it before he accidentally breaks any environmental or salvage laws.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is the hallmark of a high-trust community.
A high-trust community, because he asked for permission.
Because of who he asked. In many urban environments with low social capital, residents actively avoid engaging with law enforcement unless a crime is in progress. The police are viewed strictly as an adversarial force.
Sure.
But in this rural context, the resident views the sheriff's department as an extension of the neighborhood. They are seen as civic advisors, a resource to help navigate bureaucracy rather than just enforcers waiting to hand out fines.
That mutual trust completely recontextualizes our final incident of the week. Over on State Road 55, a resident calls the police to report that someone clearly slept in their car overnight.
Yes.
The seat was pushed back and reclined. Now, normally, finding out someone was inside your car while you slept is a massive violation of privacy.
It's an invasion of your personal sanctuary.
Right. But listen to the mechanics of what actually happened. The car was left entirely unlocked in the driveway. The person who climbed inside didn't break a window, they didn't hotwire the ignition, and they didn't steal a single item.
Nothing was taken.
Nothing. They just reclined the seat, took a nap to get out of the elements, and left everything exactly as they found it. I would argue this is peak Midwest crime.
It is fascinating. It is a trespass, certainly, but it operates under a bizarre social contract.
It really does. The fact that the owner felt safe enough to leave their doors unlocked overnight speaks to that high social capital you mentioned.
Absolutely.
But the intruder also adhered to a set of unspoken rules. They needed shelter, they found an unlocked door, they borrowed the space, and they caused zero harm.
Even in the act of committing a minor crime, the perpetrator respected the boundaries of the property. They recognized the vulnerability of the unlocked car and explicitly chose not to exploit it beyond their immediate need for rest.
It is arguably the most polite crime ever committed. Just, gonna squeeze in here and rest my eyes, don't mind me.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that perfectly encapsulates the wild spectrum of a week in Langlade County. We've gone from the raw kinetic terror of a 127-mile-per-hour highway chase to the bizarre biological reality of an eagle in a squad car, all the way down to a polite, victimless nap in a sedan.
It is a remarkable cross-section of the human experience, framed by the isolation of a rural landscape.
So what does it all mean for you? As promised, I want to leave you with our moral of the week.
Dremel, please.
First, lock your car doors unless you're running a neighborhood bed and breakfast out of your Honda Civic. Second, keep your Busch Light apple in the fridge, not structurally wedged between your legs on the highway. And finally, always yield to bald eagles because their talons can crush your bones.
Very sound, empirically backed advice.
This deep dive proves that if you scratch the surface of these bureaucratic dispatch logs, you will find that every single small town is bursting with high-stakes tension and incredible sociological drama.
It really is everywhere if you look.
So I have to ask you, the listener, what stands out to you from this week's Langlade logs? Was it the physics of the velocitized driver, the acoustic detective work of the dispatchers, or the polite trespassing.
Oh, good choices.
Think about it. Because if an eagle-riding shotgun, a hijacked cat, and a grandfather's pocket dial can all happen in one single week in Antigo, what secret, weird, hilarious dramas are unfolding right now in your own neighborhood that never even make it to the police blotter? Keep your eyes peeled. Thanks for going deep with us, and we'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.